button. All right, we're live, and thank you for joining us on another Ask an Agent. Again, my name is JD, and thank you for taking the time to join us today as we're going to discuss the ultimate guide to choosing an agency, how to avoid the pitfalls or the mistakes, and how to maximize your chances for success in order to win in following spins. Because I got to tell you, if you are familiar with the success rate of agents in the industry, the common number you've seen thrown out there is 92% of them fail, where only 8% succeed, right? And that's, even with those average numbers. And why is that? Well, we're going to discuss a lot of those reasons today. I'm going to go on a limb and say that the majority of the reason why that happens oftentimes is because a person chooses the wrong agency to work with, and they're set up for failure out the gate. And so if you can just choose the right agency, the chances of you being able to succeed are going to be tremendous, right? You can improve your chances of succeeding just by choosing the right agency, have a massive impact on your success, right? And so again, thank you guys for joining us today. This is going to be a live Q&A, so I will ask you guys to throw questions in the chat, whether you are joining me on YouTube or if you're joining us on the backside on the Zoom. Please throw your questions in the chat, and Marty and I will get to those questions. But before we go any further, let me welcome my guest today, Mr. Marty Waters. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, JD. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and it's kind of almost silly to be on a stream here together. We're both in the state of Colorado, probably maybe an hour away from each other.
That's
I'm
right.
in Springs. Marty, You're up in Denver area.
Yep. Exactly.
Got it. So before we get started, Marty, can you just please describe, because things have kind of been evolving rather quickly here at the DIG Agency. Tell us exactly what is your current title and responsibilities here at the agency?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm currently the Duford Insurance Group, or DIG Agency, operations manager. I help Dave out with all the interviews with applicants and interviewing them, help make the decisions on who we're going to bring in, help all the new agents coming into the agency with the onboarding process, making sure that goes as smooth as possible, help with some of the contracting work as well. I help the contracting department as well with some commissions and things of that nature for agents. So most agents will come to me first with questions about that, and then I can if need be, help get the help from the contracting department. Also do multitude of other things on the back end, I should say. But those are kind of the biggest responsibilities I have. And yeah, looking forward to our discussion here and hopefully getting some great questions.
All right, fantastic, my friend. So in order to kick things off, I've made a list, or put a list together, of what I feel are the 5 most important things to consider when choosing your agency, right? And so what we're going to dive into here is describe exactly each one of those topics in details, what things to avoid, kind of what happens in a lot of cases in some of these agencies. And, unfortunately, the reality is a lot of them have in common the MLM agencies. Whereas when you go to an independent brokerage, right, like an agency like DIG. And so kind of comparing, contrasting those two different options. But to me, the number one most important thing when choosing an agency, number one, would be training. So Marty, can you speak to us? And Marty has a unique perspective because he gets to see a lot of the interviews of people wanting to come into our agency. I don't know what the percentages are, but a large percentage of them are people that are coming to us from another agency. So he has that unique perspective to say, hey, I was at this other agency, things didn't work out, and the reason why I'm coming over to DIG is this. And so again, Marty has that unique perspective. So maybe guide us, Marty, what you've seen, how important is training, and is that a big factor for people coming over to us?
Absolutely. It almost is probably the number one factor. I have now had like you said, the unique perspective to interview agents usually looking for a new opportunity. They're unhappy with where they're at, and almost guaranteed one of the number one reasons why they're looking for somewhere else is because they're not getting the training or support that they were not only promised, unfortunately, at that agency, but just not simply getting. And it comes down to things like their mentor or coach, if they have one, or sponsor or manager, just quit responding to them. And that's frustrating. I unfortunately, I didn't mention this earlier, but I am an agent as well, part-time for David. And I have been in my career with those types of agencies, and it's so frustrating, especially when you have someone that brings you on board, promising you all this support, training, guiding you to success, and then they just kind of leave you hanging. So it really is one of the number one things I see with agents interviewing with me and the Do Forward Insurance Group is the fact that they're just they feel like they're not getting any kind of training. They feel like they're kind of left in the cold. Also, like, really don't know where to go because their sponsor or manager quit responding to them. So they just really don't know where to go except maybe elsewhere, another agency. So that's kind of one of the biggest things. And, and that's one of the things I'm proud of here at the Do Forward Insurance Group, to be actually supporting the training, the coaching, the mentorship, one-on-one training and mentorship here, which is so important. In the past, some agencies I've come across where it was all this group training, you never really got to be, any kind of one-on-one or anything like that. It was so difficult for new agents, especially, to kind of just jump into this big group and start asking questions, and and don't even know the questions to be asking. So that's it's huge. Like I said, I think it's number one reason why agents are looking for different opportunities.
Perfect. Yeah. So you can't emphasize enough how important the training is out the gate to get started. Right. And really, one of the things that I really like about being here at the Do Forward Insurance Group at the DIG Agency is once you get onboarded and you get access to this program called School, there's like a multitude of resources in there as far as all these different training modules, not only for final expense, but for other products as well. And I've heard other agencies in our group refer to it almost like being like an educate, almost like going to college for insurance, right? There's so much information and value available to you that if you don't have that with your agency that you're currently at, or if you're investigating agencies and where to look for, make sure that those opportunities are available to you, right? The other thing I want to jump in real quick, like I mentioned before, if you guys are on YouTube or on the back end on the Zoom, please feel free to post questions for Marty and I. We're going to get to the Q&A here at the end of it. But again, thank you for joining. And just for a little bit of fun, let us know where you guys are joining. Like I mentioned, Marty and I are both in Colorado. Just for fun, post in the chat where you guys are joining us. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel to make sure you get more valuable content like this that we're doing on a weekly basis. We had to move it to Thursday, though, because we're doing the road show. We'll circle back to that conversation here in a moment. But if you guys join us here on every Thursday, we'll be dropping some value bombs, as they like to say here on YouTube. So again, number one in choosing an agency is going to be making sure that you have the right training available to you. Number two, Marty, on my list, at least, as far as deciding what agency to work for, is leads. Everybody wants to know, like, where do the leads come from? How do the leads work? Are you guys ripping me off? I'm buying leads from you. Kind of describe to us what you've seen other agents coming into our agency. How important is leads to them?
Again, right up next to training, probably number two, or, right there with it. That is another big topic that agents that I'm interviewing to join the Do Forward Insurance Group has a concern about, understandably. Usually I've talked to agents, they've bought, hundreds, if not $1,000s worth of leads at their prior or former IMO agency. And come to find out they were all aged leads. They didn't know they were aged. They were told these were fresh and exclusive, but come to find out, and it's very easy to tell when you're calling these leads and you get people saying, hey, you're the 8th person that's called me this week about this. I'm not interested, things of that nature. So that's one big sign that you're buying aged leads. And, and another thing I've noticed, agents that come in, they were promised free leads, right? This is a big, dangling of the carrot. I fell into this before I found the Duford Insurance Group, where they promised you free leads. It never really said fresh and exclusive. They just said free. And, that, of course, perks all of our interest up as an agent. So what happens is you get into this agency, you sign all this paperwork to be part of them, you get the carrier contracts, and now you're kind of locked in. And then you guess what? You find out these leads are aged too. You're just going through a database of leads that have been around for months, if not years. And you're just trying to catch these people in the right situation that they actually do need it at that point in time. It's tough. I have worked for that type of agency. Plus, their commissions are just awful. I mean, I didn't realize this, but I was down to like 40-50% in getting these free, quote unquote, free leads, but you couldn't convert them because either one, you couldn't get them on the phone. They don't answer the phone anymore. Two, you're the 8th, 10th person that's called them in the last week or so about that. So, so that's really important. That's a lot to do with some of what I talk to agents about. Another thing that folks don't realize or maybe understand until they get into this industry, there's also agencies out there that absolutely tell you never, ever, ever buy leads. These are typically your MLM types of companies. Now, nothing wrong with those types of companies if you're into that. But what they usually are, they don't want you buying leads because they want you to recruit. That's really where that all boils down to. Don't waste your money on leads because you can, talk to your friends and families and, get into what I call the NFL, which turns into the no friends league. That's what it ends up being. So beware of that. If that's not what you're into, if you don't want to recruit, you don't want to, bug your family and friends and go to, network marketing groups and trying to drum up business. Again, that works, but not if, only for a certain amount of time. You're going to eventually run out of that. So hopefully that makes sense and helps.
Yes, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I've got recruiting here later on the list. So we'll cover that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, we'll cover, and that's a good point. We'll cover that more here in depth in just a moment. And my next thing on the list after training and after leads, as one of the most important things that you need to consider when choosing the right agency is the commission structure, right? Because there could be a situation where even if you have the right training, even if you have the right leads, if you're not getting paid right, you simply just can't be profitable and make a living and really get the true value of what's available in this industry as an independent broker, right? So, Marty, can you talk to us about what kind of commission structures have you seen out there with other agents?
Yeah, absolutely. Those agencies that offer the free leads, I've seen them so low as 25 to 30% commissions, up to maybe 40 or 50 if you're lucky. And talking with agents, there's really no way to get over that hump. Like the more production, the better commissions that'll come in. A lot of these agencies don't even offer that. So say if you sold a bunch of policies, you can't even get a higher commission with that, which is sad in my opinion, and doesn't seem fair to me. The more production that you do and help out an agency, you just don't get any kind of reward for that. So and then some agencies where you are buying leads on your own, from them, I have seen, 70% seems to be about a general area, where they come in at 70-75% commission. Not too bad, certainly better than 30 or 40, but I got my eyes opened up when I came on with the DIG Agency and saw what you can truly make as an independent broker, especially with here. And again, I know this is kind of me and you are kind of what do you want to call it? Oh, it's a blank in here, but we're kind of one-sided, I guess, with the DIG Agency.
We're biased, right?
Biased, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. But it is the truth. I do have this experience of talking with a lot of agencies agents from other agencies, and these are the number one things that come into play. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that. So just to reiterate, here's where we're at so far in discussing the most important topics that you need to consider when choosing the agency that you want to work with. Number one, we have training. Number two, we have leads. Number three, we've got commission. And then number four is something that Marty has already alluded to here just a moment ago. And that is working at an agency that is primarily focused, or having their agents primarily focus on recruitment, as opposed to having them focus on selling and the skills and the assets and the resources needed in order to be successful in even selling the product, right? Their focus again is on you recruiting other people to recruit other people and so on, as opposed to you actually going out and doing the business yourself, right? And so, Marty, you got any more details as far as those folks coming in or that have gone to other agencies where recruitment has been the primary focus?
Yeah, usually those agents really aren't wanting to do that. They just want to be a top producer and sell and, provide a financial security for them and for their family. And recruiting is just not something that they're interested in. Now, I do get some agents that are interested in that, and that is fine. But one of the things that we caution with that is don't start your career in recruiting without understanding the business first. And what I mean by that is actually getting out there in the field or on the phone and selling policies and understanding the business, because that is really the best way to recruit. And that's exactly what David did. And look at what he's done with his business, right? Over the last 10 years. He went out in the field, found out what a wonderful opportunity this truly is to help people make good income for yourself. And then once he mastered the business, then he got into recruiting. And that's kind of the way we focus on it here too. Because there's just, in my opinion, there's just no business for someone who's brand new in the industry to start recruiting when you don't even know the business. And most agents agree with that, believe it or not, which is why we have the path of becoming a top producer first, or on that path, then if you'd like to start recruiting. We also have a unique situation to where if you don't want to recruit, you can simply refer us agents and you can get paid on that too, which is something I have not seen in other agencies, which I think is pretty unique here. So yeah.
Excellent. So again, yeah, just to wrap all of those four items up before we carry on here to the last one, the first most important thing you need to consider when choosing the agency that you're going to partner with, number one is going to be training. Number two is going to be having the right leads available to you. Number three is getting the right commission structure right. You got to make sure you're getting paid. And then number four is focusing on being a professional, selling the product, and not focusing on just mass recruitment of other individuals. Okay. Right. So to wrap things up, Marty, my number 5 on my list, and we can go beyond this if need be, is what is the growth potential? What is the opportunity for you to move forward? One of the things that we've already alluded to is being able to recruit agents underneath you and build your business out that way in time, right? After you've built some street cred out in the field, at a minimum of probably 6 months or 12 months at a minimum, probably I would recommend prior to, thinking about going to the agency strategy. Or long-term, you can do things like adding additional carriers, because when you get started, you're only going to get started with maybe 2 or 3 carriers, but having an agency that you have access to a multitude of carriers is important, so you can expand the opportunities, not only just in life insurance with things like, your whole life, your traditional final expense products, but also being able to cross-sell their kids with some term insurance, depending on the situation. Also, the ability to sell annuities and IULs, and then you could progress into the health insurance side, which has massive potential upside as far as creating like a passive income stream. With products on the health side, you're looking at things that are typically referred to as ACA, Obamacare, essentially under 65, right? And then the Medicare field, right? Everybody's probably familiar with Medicare as a long-term passive income stream. So making sure that whatever agency you choose has kind of that process or that pathway for you to add those additional products on, or to start recruiting people for yourself, and essentially setting yourself up for success, not only out the gate, but also thinking about where you're going to be in 3, 5, or 10 years from now. So Marty, any thoughts as far as access to carriers or additional products?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's a that's a great way to start expanding your business slowly. And this is a slow expansion, I recommend. I made one of the biggest mistakes I see most agents making years ago when I came on board with David, and that was not focused on one product. I came in trying to do final expense, annuities, then I get into Medicare, trying to do term, whole life, IULs. I mean, you name it, I was trying to do. And guess what I did? I did nothing, right? It's just too much out there. So we here at the DIG Agency focus on a final expense at first. And then once you get good at that, and by the way, when you are learning the final expense business, you're learning many skill sets that's going to help you with any of the other products that JD already mentioned, right? Because you're understanding underwriting, you're understanding what our clients' health conditions can be, what their needs, what their goals may be already, things of that nature, how to do an application. So yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm the poster boy at the beginning of trying to do everything at once and failing at all of it. So I finally got focused long time ago on final expense, and now I've added Medicare myself. And yeah, and that's the way, you know, I tell a lot of agents, and most of them agree because they've kind of been down that path with another agency where they're trying to sell mortgage protection, term, whole life, things of that nature. So super important. And then the other thing, if you're really wanting to scale, the easiest thing to do is increase that lead budget. It really comes down to buying more leads, really, and maybe getting some help, like an appointment setter, you know, to start doing your appointments and setting, you know, hire someone that can do that. That way you can be either out in the field more or on the phone more, so you can have someone doing preset appointments. That's another trick of the trade, if you will, to start scaling your business and getting more sales. So I think that about covers it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that, Marty. Those are my top 5, essentially wrapping up really what the pitfalls are in this business. The reason why 92% of agents fail in the industry is because they choose the wrong agency to work with. And how do you know you're choosing the right or wrong agency? By evaluating at least a minimum these 5 important topics. And again, number 1 is making sure you got the right training in place, right, to get started, because you're not going to be successful just trying to figure it all out on your own. Making sure that you have a mentor, a coach, and they can guide you through the process that has been there, that has done that. Number 2 is having the right leads in place, making sure that even if you are in a free lead program, that the leads that you're getting are fresh and exclusive to you, meaning they're not aged, they haven't been laying around for months or years, and then multiple agents have already tried to work them. These leads have been beat up, you know, for a long period of time.
Right.
And then making sure you're getting the right commission structure, because if you're not getting paid right and you're getting hit with chargebacks and other things, like it can make it a challenge for you to succeed. These are all pitfalls, again, that we've seen a number of agents. The reason why they come to our agency is because they've succumbed to some of these pitfalls, right, in the agencies that they worked with. And then the last one is making sure long-term that there's some type of a pathway or a road to success as you gain experience selling final expense. Listen, you can decide just to be a final expense person and just do that for the next 20 years if you wanted to, but being in a position where you have additional options as far as adding additional carriers, other product lines, opportunities for promotion, advancement, management, things of that nature. Obviously, Marty and I are students or results of that process. So that kind of covers the pitfalls primarily. The next thing I wanted to get into, Marty, is just a little bit of detail about what makes us unique. How does the DIG Agency answer or solve all of those important topics to make sure that you're choosing the right agency? Before I get there, though, I did want to say thank you for everybody joining us on the Zoom. We've got folks in Knoxville, Tennessee. We've got Phoenix, Arizona in the house. I've got Clarksville, Tennessee, and no responses yet on YouTube. I see you live viewers on there, so you guys need to chime in. Let us know where you're viewing us from, and then post some questions, because Marty and I will jump to those here in a moment after we cover a little bit more of this topic in depth. So, Marty, here's what I want to do next. I want to show these folks. Let's see here. We're going to go here, and bear with me. I'm not the Zoom expert that some of you guys are out there. So let's see here. Marty, can you see my screen here?
I can. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this just helped me kind of summarize what makes David Duford or the DIG Agency unique or different, right? And just like those topics that we covered, surprise, surprise, those are the top things, the differentiators of what makes us different and unique. Number one, we've got the industry's best training, right? We've got one-on-one mentorship from experienced coaches. And the way that I like to explain that is, depending on which part of the program you're going into, whether that's going to be telesales or face-to-face, you have a coach that's personally assigned to you, that their number one job in life is to make sure that you're successful, right? They're not out there trying to help you, but also going to write their own business, like getting distracted, or they're busy in the house or whatever. Like, their sole focus in life, again, is to make sure that you're successful. The way that we chose these specific coaches are, number one, they have personal experience out there in the field or on the phone doing exactly what you are trying to do, right? They've written business under their own pen, as we like to say. And number two, what I feel may even be more important to that, is they have a track record of being able to produce other agents that can produce as well. And like the analogy that I like to use there, I'm a little bit of a sports guy. Like, you can be, I say sports guy and then I forget. You could be, what's the Chiefs quarterback guy?
Patrick Mahomes.
You could be Patrick Mahomes on the field, but that doesn't mean that you're going to translate into being a Vince Lombardi or a John Madden coaching on the sidelines, right? Those are two unique, different skill sets. And the coaches that we have in place, number one, they were successful out in the field. Number two, they're successful coaching other agents to be successful. So keep that in mind, right? The other thing, we have access to high quality leads that are fresh and exclusive. In addition to that, we've got a free lead program available. It's an 8-week career program where you are starting off at a reduced commission in exchange, right? You're going to start at a 50% commission rate, 100% transparent up front with that. But ultimately, our goal with that program, because we're eliminating the number one cost of any agent in this business, which is buying leads, by removing that cost to you, you're able to build like a war chest essentially and be able to save up money, so that way you can then go out into the field and make the 100% commission and buy your own leads, right? That's kind of the way that program works. And then again, for other agents that aren't on the free lead program, you're going to start at a 100% commission rate, which means with a few exceptions, but which essentially means whatever the annual premium is that you're receiving 100% of that commission, with the ability to go up to 130%, and in some cases even more than that, with personal production, right? So there's an obvious and transparent way for you to progress and make more money. Next up, like we talked about, there's not an MLM focused recruitment strategy here. We're again focused on getting you the experience to become a professional out there in the field and understanding how the sales process works, the script, objection handling, underwriting, all the things that go into selling insurance. That's our primary focus. And we've got a long-term opportunity potential for management or creating your own passive income, adding those products like we talked about, doing some health insurance, ACA, Medicare, et cetera. And last but not least, and Marty, whenever I tell these folks in our live Q&A, I always tell them I feel like the ShamWow or Billy Mays when I say this.
Right.
But we're backed by our amazing money back guarantee, right? So essentially So essentially the way that works is, if you join our agency and you're onboarded, you go through all of the training and requirements that we ask you to do. And if for some reason you're not able to make a sale within the first week, we will 100% refund the cost of the money that you paid for that first week's of leads, because we believe that strongly in our process to make sure that you're going to be successful. So, and again, we're not the ones even selling the leads. So it's almost like going to Home Depot and buying a tool from there and then going to try to return it at the grocery store, right? Like that, you couldn't do that. Like, again, we didn't sell you the lead, but we're refunding you the money because we're that confident in the training and the mentorship program that we've put in place for our agents. And if you're on that free lead program, even if you didn't even spend any money, we will write you a check for $500. And I got to tell you, Marty, and you probably know this better than I do, obviously, we're not making a business out of writing these checks for agents. So to my knowledge, we have yet to do that, because all of the agents that have followed the training and process that we put in place in front of them, that do the steps, they're able to make a sale, right? Marty, do you know anything further? Have we had to make?
Yeah, That's what my understanding is. I mean, this is an unheard of money back guarantee in this industry. I about fell out of my chair when David introduced it to us, but I thought it was brilliant because no one else that I know of, and I've talked to a lot of agents from a lot of agencies that have this type of money back guarantee. So it's just unheard of. And even if you come into the career program and get, free, fresh and exclusive leads in that program and you don't make a sale, David's going to give you a check for $500 for just trying, just unheard of. And again, that does go towards the confidence that of the system that he's built over the years, that all you have to do is plug in, do the work. You got to do the work though, and you'll see success.
Nobody said it was going to be easy.
Right. And that is the thing there. What's our saying? This business is simple, but it's not easy, right? And one other thing on that list you were showing that I wanted to mention about recruiting, if that is something that you would long-term like to do with us. Here's a very unique thing that we offer that a lot of agencies don't. Mostly when you are recruiting and you're bringing on agents under you, guess what? You're in charge of them. You are training them. You are leading them. You are, showing them the ropes. Here at the DIG Agency, you can still recruit, but you can put all of that on the plate of us, of our training, of our system. And you can go continue your recruiting efforts or doing your personal production efforts. That's huge, in my opinion, that I'm not saying you just recruit someone in and never talk to them again, and plug them in our system, but I'm saying you can plug them in our system, get our world-class training and coaching, and then, again, just keep doing what you're doing. So I think that's very unique as well.
Yeah, Marty, and you bring up a great point, and I meant to mention that, so I'm glad you said that. One of the actual downside to this focus on recruiting, not only are you not out there selling when you could be making and earning commission, but the other problem is, let's say you got recruited and then you try to recruit somebody the following week, and now that person's essentially, you're responsible for their success, when meanwhile, you're a week into the business, and what do you know? What value could you provide to that person?
Right.
So very valid point. So if you are with the DIG Agency, and you did recruit somebody, you're not even responsible for making sure they're training. Yes, you can be an additional resource or a mentor to them or an ally, a colleague on the side, but essentially their success is going to be driven by their coach and mentorship program, because they have access to all the same resources, same coaching, just the same way that you do. You're not personally responsible for them. So that's a very solid point. So let's say this, Marty, let's say that you sold me, man. I think that maybe the DIG Agency could be possibly the right fit for me. What would somebody need to do next? What is the first step? And my first step that I was going to start with is, number one, make sure you're licensed. And then if you already are licensed, then you're going to need to request a release from, and if you're already at an agency. Marty, can you expand on those details?
Yeah. As far as the contracting of carriers now, the release can, some folks need it, have to have it, some don't. And there's multiple reasons why. Some agents start with an agency and just never even get started because they were just left in the cold. They were promised all this stuff. They never followed through. So some of those carrier contracts just never came through, were never done. In that situation, you probably don't need a release. And these are some of the conversations I have with agents, right? Now, you may need a release, and that usually is a pretty simple process. Most agencies will release you because they really have nothing to gain. They know you're really not interested anymore in what they're offering, and you're looking to move to somewhere else. So most of the time, it's not a big deal. If it is a big deal, then we have a multitude of other carriers we can usually get you contracted with, quality carriers that can at least get you started while we're figuring out if there's a wait wait period. Sometimes there's a 6-month wait period with a carrier. If you signed up at a different agency and you need to, they won't release you for whatever reason. They will, you'll have to do a 6-month wait period. So that's kind of how it goes. The other thing as far as next steps is I would highly recommend taking a look at David's FAQ page. The FAQ page will answer 80 to 90% of your questions about working here at the Do-For-It Insurance Group. And then if you do have more questions, JD, I'm hearing is putting on a heck of a Q&A call almost every day now. JD, is that right?
Monday through Friday daily.
Monday through Friday. There you go. Get your great questions answered there with a very experienced agent that is now on board with us. So, and then if all that looks good, all your questions are being answered, go ahead and apply. There's an apply button right on the front page of daviddoforward.com. Go ahead and apply. That will send your application to me where I can take a look at it. And then, if all looks good, invite you to do an interview and we can chat more.
Fantastic. So just to reiterate, step number one is get your insurance license. And in case you're not licensed already, we do have a resource on the website, daviddufour.com/FAQ. If you'll scroll down there, there's actually a link to a discount code for a pre-licensing course. So in case you're in the situation where you're not licensed yet, we do have that resource for you, but it is going to be self-study. Then you get licensed. And then again, then you'll be ready to apply after that. Or if you're in a situation where you already are licensed, but you're contracted with another company, make sure that you request a release from that company. And again, like Marty had mentioned to you, if for some reason they're one of those particular agencies that's going to tie you up and whatever carriers you have, they're kind of tied up for a period of time, we do have access to, I want to say it's almost 30 different carriers that you'll have access to that you can use as an alternative. And then eventually those carriers will get released to you and you'll get access to them, right? And so those are the two options. But once you get one of that first step done, licensed and get a release, then you're going to want to hit the application. Again, daviddufour.com/apply, or there's a link at the top of the page. Fill out the form for the application. Once the application is submitted, it'll come across our onboarding team's desk, including Marty. And then if selected, you'll be asked to move on to the interview. Now, Marty, this kind of almost sounds like a traditional hiring for like a W-2 job. Like most insurance agencies are just letting anybody and everybody with the license in the door, and they're using the approach of whatever, throw it at the wall and whatever sticks, right? Can you describe kind of the differences there?
Yeah, we're really looking for more quality than quantity. And just because you're brand new to the insurance or recently licensed doesn't mean that you're not a qualified candidate to come work with us. That's not what we're saying. We just like to have a conversation. Yes, I will ask you some, quote unquote interview questions, but it's more of a conversation we're going to have. Of course, you get the opportunity to ask questions in that interview too, there at the end. But what we're trying to find out is some of the qualities that you may have from other prior either insurance experience, sales experience, or maybe transferable skills from another industry that you were in and decided, okay, this insurance industry is where I want to go. There's always ways to use some of those skills in this industry too. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Or
yeah, no, 100%. I appreciate that. And before I forget, well, I got to shout out my friends here on YouTube. We've got folks joining us from Atlanta. Well, actually, we just had our roadshow there, so it sounds like they're leaving Atlanta, going back to Houston. Nice. And then we've got another one in Tennessee, somebody in San Antonio. Shout out to my friends in Texas. I'm from New Braunfels, and we've got Louisiana in the house. Those are all folks on YouTube, and in Florida. Now let's go ahead and do this, Marty. We're going to cover real quick, once somebody's gone through the application process, the interview process, what happens next. And I want to give them, describe to them what the onboarding and that initial training looks like with the DIG agency. And then after that, we're going to jump into the Q&A. So we've got some great questions pending in the YouTube. We're going to get to those here in a moment. Some great questions here in the Zoom. So I appreciate you guys for joining on there as well. If you do have questions, post them to us, because we're going to get into the Q&A shortly. But Marty, can you guide us through that real quick, kind of an overview of what the onboarding, contracting, and and training looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. So if accepted into the agency, you would get an email directly from myself inviting you to join us. In that email, there would be an onboarding link that you would go to, step-by-step videos, instructions, everything. It's about 6 or 7 steps you go through getting onboarded. Mainly the biggest steps are the contracting, the carrier contracting. Of course, I'm your resource through that whole process. So you've got one point of contact. Now, I may bring in our contracting department if they need to assist, but usually I'm your go-to guy for any questions with that process. Once you've completed those steps, then your coach will be reaching out to you via email or a phone call. It depends on the coach. Some coaches love just calling you, introducing themselves, giving you next steps. One of our coaches also likes the auto emails that's going to be next steps with training. So either or. We always like you to start officially the training on a Monday, because you're going to be invited to that trainer or coach's daily huddle, which is about a 30, 45-minute call every morning. One lesson starts on a Monday and then builds upon each other each of the day, each of the week, which is why we like you starting on Monday. Now, say you got hired on or brought on like on the Tuesday before the Monday. We like to get you started with the training. I always say the training actually starts before the official training, because we want you to get familiar with the scripts prior to that official first day of training. There is going to be some pre-work mainly done where you'll maybe recording some of your recording the scripts for your coach and just getting familiar with that script. So then once the training begins on that official Monday, you're going to be scheduling one-on-one calls with your coach, sometimes twice a day, maybe once a day, depending on the coach. And then within about 7 to 10 business days is when we would love to have you with all your carrier contracts done, your leads in hand that you purchased, and you're ready to start either making calls if you're telesales or out in the field, either door knocking or maybe appointment setting with the face-to-face agents. So, it's pretty intense. I have been through one of the coaches training, and it is pretty intense, but it really prepares you to get out in the field or on the phone because, really, I got to say this, the way you learn this the best is being on the phone or in the field, is doing it, right? That's where you learn it all. We can read and train all we want about it, but, like you could read a book about getting on the treadmill, I always say, but if you don't get on the treadmill, you're never going to learn how to do it, right? Same thing. But, and then of course, just to let you all know that, after 7 or 10 business days to get you ready for the field doesn't mean the training and coaching is over. That by no means. That is a long-term, lasting relationship there. So. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up. So we're going to get you ready to go. We call it almost like a blitz style, like just 100% immerse yourself in there. You're going to focus on the training and reviewing the script and the sales process and underwriting, etc., for at least that first 1 to 2 weeks to get started. But again, like Marty mentioned, that relationship that you have with your mentor, with your coach, is considered a permanent relationship. And in fact, I started selling in the field face-to-face back in January. And to this day, I still talk to my coach, if not weekly, then daily. I will still call him and he helps me close business on a daily basis. So I'll put him on speakerphone, like, hey, I've got to ask a question to you. I'm not sure. Let me get this clarified for us. And it kind of almost adds an extra layer of professionalism to you, right? To make sure like, hey, this guy really cares. He's going out above and beyond to make sure that my answers are, this situation is handled, right? So I'll get him on the phone. We'll be on speakerphone. He'll say hi to them. We'll describe whatever the situation is that we're trying to figure out. He'll give us our answer. Oftentimes I'm like, I already have what I think is the answer, and he'll just confirm that. So again, just adding that extra layer of validity to whatever it is that you're saying is crucial. But yeah, I talk to my coach, David Heath, on a weekly, if not daily basis. So that person is considered a permanent relationship. And I still go to the daily huddles to this day every morning just to learn, or if there's other people in the room, then maybe I can give my experience too, now that I've been out in the field for some time, and give another perspective, right? And so that's extremely valuable to have that in place. So
absolutely.
The next thing that I want to cover, Marty, since we've covered. If you're interested in joining, what to do. I want to show folks in the room real quick some other resources if they're going to get started, and then we're going to get, like I said, to the Q&A. Let's see here. So if you go to davidduford.com, the resources here at the top. Again, if you're ready to apply, the link is right here at the top. If you want to know more about us and our agency, this FAQ page is crucial. And on here, like I mentioned, there's also the link to the training, or I'm sorry, a link to the discount. If you need your license still, there's a discount in there. And then beyond that, some additional resources. If you hit this free training, this is going to give you access to the school website called Insurance Sales Success. Tons of free resources in here, scripts, videos, books, all kinds of stuff. All you have to do is punch your email address in here and you'll get signed up for free. Whether you decide to join our agency or not, that's just kind of a free value that we like to throw out there. And then last but not least, the roadshow. So in case you want to maybe see myself or Marty or some of the team in person, we are going to be out doing this road tour in person. These 7 cities between now and the end of the year. I believe Atlanta just wrapped up yesterday. So if you're in LA or Dallas, Nashville, Tampa, Indy, or Charlotte, we will be coming to a town near you. The dates on this website are the Wednesday. And so that's going to be like our 9 to 5 classroom style of training. And then the Tuesday before, there will be an opportunity to do a ride out or a ride along with experienced agents where you can get to sit in the car, go knock some doors, go run some presentations, maybe even get some sales closed. Just an opportunity to see what the business looks like in a face-to-face in the street level. And this is 100% free training or a free resource to you. This show is, all it requires is a $100 deposit just to make sure that you guys are in fact are going to show up there, because anytime you do something for free, it's a low value, it's an easy come, easy go. Whereas if you put that $100 on the line, it ensures that we're going to have an audience to share our time with. But once you attend the event, you'll get that $100 refunded back to you. So again, I'd be happy to join you guys. I'm probably going to be at about 75% of these events coming up. So I'd be happy to see you guys and meet you guys in person. So that is another resource to you guys out there. And then last but not least, if you're not ready to apply, like Marty had talked about, I do a daily Monday through Friday Q&A where you can join in here. There's a link on here to choose a time that works best for you, where it's an hour long. And I like the Q&A format, Marty. Previously, I was doing this on a one-on-one basis, but what I have found is for the folks that join there, maybe their focus is going to be telesales or the career program, and that's what they have questions around. But there's other people in the room asking other questions. So now they're getting additional value or information that they hadn't otherwise would have answered on a one-on-one setting. So you're getting more value for your time, again, than you would have even in a one-on-one. So that would be another option if you want to learn more about us or ask more specific questions to your situation. So I just want to share that resource there with folks. And let's see here. We're going to jump into the Q&A portion here. Let's see here. I'm going to start off on YouTube first. Let's see, Marty, what kind of questions do I have for you? Marty, how do you spot a company that focuses on recruiting? Seems like they wouldn't tell you that they emphasize on recruiting out the front.
Yeah, great question. I used to belong to a company years ago. They would flat out tell you, we're not an MLM. We're not network marketing. That is a red flag for me, because that's all they focused on was recruiting. And unfortunately, a lot of times, and I understand this, you really don't know until you get in there and start realizing some of this stuff. But you can always ask for references. I find that extremely valuable. Ask to get names and numbers of some other agents in that agency for reference, and because they're typically the ones that will tell you how it really is, right? They really have nothing to lose. And so I would do that. go online, Google reviews, or just kind of, looking at some, Glassdoor or LinkedIn, things, those kind of resources, and see what kind of comments are made about them, reviews like that. But yeah, you're right. A lot of them are now learning not to bring that up, because it may scare some agents away, which, isn't very transparent to me. That's another, red flag. So those are a few things, that I can, help.
Yeah, I'll add to that and say,
please.
part of the sniff test for me, if I was kind of curious, is if out the gate, if their conversation as far as getting you in front of people, if they're pushing you to go after your warm market, like, you're most likely in an MLM situation. Now, that's not to say that warm market is bad or that it doesn't work, but just keep in mind this: a warm market is going to eventually run out on you, right? Because there's only so many people. I don't care if you got 6,000 friends on Facebook, but like, eventually you're going to run out of those people to get in front of. And then what do? Right. And so again, warm market's not necessarily bad. Even within our agency, if you felt like that was the route for you to go, one of the benefits of a warm market is there's zero lead cost. And maybe you use that to get your initial like nest egg to get started. So that way you can start buying your own leads, right? Or maybe you start doing like some seminar marketing where it's free. You go to senior centers and put on a little educational seminar for seniors, talking to them about final expense. And turning that into a sales opportunity. But again, those are not long-term strategies. If you're going to want to be successful in this business, 99% of the time, you're going to have to be buying leads, right? And so that would be kind of my red flag on identifying an MLM.
Yeah, real quick to tag on to that. Yeah, that's another question you can ask that agency. Do they believe, do they have their agents buying leads, or do they provide leads? If they're one of these agencies, no, we don't believe in buying leads, then that might be that red flag, that they're more about the, make a list of 100 of your friends and family and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yes, sir. All right. And then on YouTube, Steven Jackson has asked us, do you guys work with brand new agents in Florida?
Sure.
Marty?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. No experience required. We will take you in any state. I think there's one small exception to that, Marty.
New York. Well, and really the only exception to that is you have to do telesales. If you're willing to be a telesales final expense agent and you live in New York, we definitely would talk to you, or would like to talk to you. There's no problem there, but face-to-face agents in New York, we can't take. And it's not because we don't want to, it's because we have no carriers. All the carriers have pulled out of New York. It's so hard to do business there that the carriers have decided just to pull out. So, but yeah, that's the big, the one big state that we can't do face-to-face in.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so if you are in New York, I get, obviously telesales would be an option, but maybe if you're close enough, you can drive over to a neighboring state. If you decided like, hey, I'm in New York, but I want to start in that career program. That career program is only for face-to-face agents. What do I do? It's like, well, you got to get in the car and drive to Jersey, or whatever else is close to you, depending upon where you're at. So just that is a caveat. The one exception there is New York State. And again, that's due to some of their legalities as far as doing business in that state.
And one more thing, like there are a couple states like Montana, Wyoming, where leads is kind of a difficult, you can buy them and get them there, but you're gonna run out of people there. So we would recommend probably telesales for those, those types of states too.
It was like super low population.
Super low, North Dakota maybe, but
you're gonna have to have people to get in front of, right?
Yeah. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Would having a foreign accent disqualify someone from applying for telesales? Marty, your thoughts, and I've got thoughts also.
Yeah, I mean, great question. I don't disqualify you. I still would like to talk with you and see if it's not like you can't do it. It's just, it's more what the client or the prospect's thinking, is this someone from out of the country trying to sell me something? Is this a scam is what they're really saying, right? We would probably see if maybe face-to-face could work better for you, at least starting out and getting down, the process, the sales system, the whole sales cycle. We would probably do that. It's funny. I'm not going to name any names here, but a gentleman came to me. This has been months ago. He wanted to do telesales part-time when we were recruiting part-time telesales. We aren't anymore. But then we talked, and I finally said, man, why don't you try face-to-face? And he's like, I've been thinking of that. And he did do that. And now he has become an unbelievable producer for part-time face-to-face. And he loves face-to-face now. He doesn't even want to think about telesales anymore, because he's just one of these guys that are, more likes to get out and about and talk with people. So, yeah, it's not a
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker. But, it is a little more difficult, though. I got to tell you, so.
Okay.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, JD?
Here's my thoughts. And this person kind of has a name, BHD USA. I'm not sure what your name is, but I'm speaking directly to you. So my answer is this. So would a foreign accent disqualify someone from applying? And I answered no. And the reason why I say that is, if anybody else in that circumstance or situation has been successful, then you can too. There has most certainly been people with foreign accents that have been successful both in face-to-face and telesales. Could it be a challenge or a barrier for you? Possibly, but I always like to think of things on the positive side. And in my opinion, I look at it as an advantage. Like you've got a strength, because now when you're speaking on the phone, especially on the phone in telesales, that person has to listen so much more carefully to extract the actual words of what you're saying. So you're getting somebody to actually pay even more attention to you than somebody without an accent, right? So I think they could actually be a strength or an asset to somebody to have that. So.
Absolutely. Great point.
Yeah. So good questions there on YouTube. And thank you. That's Hannah. I appreciate you for joining us. And let me slide over here to Zoom. And in case you're wondering, like, hey, I'm on this YouTube thing, how do I get into the Zoom? If you go to daviddufour.com, hit the free training, punch your email in there. In that group called ISS, not only are there tons of resources and scripts and training available and videos and all kinds of stuff, you also get access to the Zoom. So you kind of get a little bit of the behind the scenes back here of Marty and I hosting this here on Zoom. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Zoom questions. Let's see here. Interested in joining DIG on a part-time basis. However, do not think I can meet the 30-hour requirement per week as an FE agent. Obtain my AH license. What? Want to do ACA, yet it appears I would have to leave my existing IMO. So a couple questions buried in there, Marty. First of all, can you talk to us about requirements for part-time?
Yeah, we are only currently recruiting part-timers for face-to-face agents, no telesales part-time agents anymore. Reason being is the data over the last 6 months have really shown us that is the least path to success, is being part-time telesales. We're seeing a lot more success with full-time on both sides, face-to-face or telesales, but specifically part-timers, we're seeing more success face-to-face. And that is with a 30-hour commitment on that. It's that old saying, being half pregnant, when we've noticed when anything less than 30 hours are being committed, this is your business. You are creating your own business. This is an entrepreneurial, endeavor, right? You have to be, in that spirit of entrepreneurship and making happen, whatever, even if you're working 40 hours a week. And I get that, but, and it is difficult for some agents to come up with another 30 hours in their week, but we do have some agents that have a flexible work schedule. I mean, this is what David did. He failed out of the business full time, went back, got him, put his tail between his legs and got a full-time job. But that job was flexible enough to where he could go out in the field and work part-time until he finally built up enough, enough income on the part-time basis where it exceeded his full-time job. So it is possible. It just takes determination. So, yeah.
100%. So what I'll tell folks is, because we just started this new one-on-one coaching mentorship program just here at the beginning of the year, and we're learning and growing and evolving as we see results, as we see the data come in. So again, we did have the opportunity to be a part-time telesales agent when we started, and today we don't, but that's not to say that things couldn't evolve that direction later in the future, possibly whenever you're watching this video later on YouTube. So just keep that in mind. That does evolve. And so like some people like 30 hours, like how the heck am I going to do 30 hours? What's kind of like a part-time, full-time thing. So for most people who come in and want to work part-time, it's because they have a 9-to-5 job, right? And so to get the 30 hours, what is it going to take? Well, it's going to look like Saturdays and Sundays going out to the field for 8 to 12 hours a day, and then 2 or 3 evenings during the week, right? In order to get, now we're not punching the time clock and tracking each and every one of your hours that you're doing. But we are going to track your production and track the, how many leads and things of that nature you're buying. And essentially the reason, like Marty said, the reason why we do this is because we're trying to maximize your potential for success. And the fewer hours that you put in, the less likely you are to succeed. So we are trying to do you a favor by putting all the chips in your favor, like on your side as much as possible, by putting in the most amount of hours in a week. So that's the reason why we do the part-time situation. And then the next question is, it looks like, so they got their accident and health license. They want to do ACA, but it appears that I have to leave my existing IMO. So one thing that I want to make sure is clear: if you decide that you want to come work with the DIG agency, the one requirement, or one of the requirements, is that you move 100% of your FE business with our agency, right? The reason for that is because we're providing 100% of the value, the training, the resources. So in return, we expect 100% of your final expense business. Now, if you're in a situation where you're already a Medicare agent, you're already an AC agent, and you want to start doing final expense, Marty, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they can leave those products there wherever they're at if they want to, but we do have contracts available if you wanted to keep it all in the same spot. Is that right, Marty?
Absolutely. If that agent wanted to do final expense with us, but keep their job and contracts with ACA where their current agency is, we're perfectly okay with that. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. But if down the road they wanted to bring their contracts over, we do have that availability too, but definitely not required.
Perfect. And let's see here, going back to the Zoom chat, DIG offers fresh and exclusive leads. That's a question. And how much is the cost for each lead? Is there a discount for purchasing in bulk? Marty, can you talk to us about how the lead program works here?
Yeah, just to be clear, we actually use third-party lead vendors, where they're the ones providing the fresh and exclusive leads. We are beta testing an internal lead system, but that's, being tested right now. So I don't want to really get into that. But starting off, we would more than likely want you to purchase your leads from our vetted out third-party vendors. And the leads, it depends on the type of lead. You do on Facebook, you do on direct mail. It can vary by where you're at in the country. I've seen some Facebook leads be as low as $15, $12 even, depending on the part of the country, up to $36, a lead on Facebook leads. And then direct mail leads, again, depending on where you're at in the country, can go from $35 to $50 a lead, Keep in mind, the biggest difference between those two types of leads is the intention. The direct mail leads we find are higher intention than the Facebook leads. So hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, man, that's a great question too, by the way. And just to reiterate exactly what Marty was saying, is that we're not in the lead business. Yeah. We don't sell any leads. We don't make money off of leads. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the way that we make money, and being 100% transparent, is we make a small override on any of the business that you write. And so the reason why I like to explain that to agents coming over is because, like, well, how do you guys make money if I'm making 100%? Well, we do, again, like I said, make that small override, as contrast to a lot of the MLMs that one of their primary sources of income for them is they're selling their agents leads, right? And so whether you're successful or not, they're making money off of you, right? As opposed to us, where, again, we're only making money when you're making money. So essentially, we have a vested interest in making sure that you're successful long-term, which is, in turn going to make us successful long-term, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship. So but that's how the leads work. And then again, not sure if you're asking about telesales or face-to-face, but essentially as a full-time agent, you're going to want to spend on a weekly basis on the low end about $750 a week, on the high end about $1,250 a week. And prior to getting started, you're going to want about a 4-week lead spend before you get into the insurance industry. And the reason for that, well, number one is this: the last place you want to be in this business is counting on your sales for this week in order to purchase or finance your leads for the following week, right? You can just imagine the stress and complexity unnecessarily that adds to your life, right? And not only that, because every agent out there we've all had a bad week, right? And all in that situation, it only takes one bad week and you're washed out. So again, just to maximize the potential that you're going to be successful long-term by having that reserves available, should you have a week or two bad, like off the bat, then you're not washed out. You're not done with, you have the ability to withstand that, right? And so that would be the reason why we'd have that in place. So let's see here. Payout on commissions. Marty, can you talk to us? How does the commission structure work for final expense?
Yeah, I mean, different carriers, different commissions, different products, different commissions. Typically a final expense policy where it's a first day full coverage policy, meaning the client is in good enough health to be able to get, first day full coverage, which was what we're always striving to do with our clients. Usually it's typically 100% payout. Once that first premium is paid on that policy, that's when you would get your commission within 3-5 business days after that, once that first premium's paid. Some differences are those guaranteed issue products, where these are the folks that can't qualify because their health is in such bad conditions, so they can't qualify for a first day full coverage. They can only qualify for the guaranteed issue, which has a 2-year wait period before the benefit. If they died in those 2 years, the benefit wouldn't be paid out, but the beneficiary would get all their premiums plus interest back to them. Those policies only pay about 60-70%, depending on the carrier. It's just an industry standard. There's nothing really, we can do about those, but hopefully that'll give that person a little bit of an idea. And then here's, I did touch on this earlier. And then you do have the ability, that's the new commission level, a new agent commission level. Once you sell 50 policies across all your carriers, doesn't have to be one, a total of 50, then you can move into what we call the experience commission level. Now you can get some upwards of 110 to 120% level commission level on a lot of those same types of products, minus that guaranteed issue. That will move up to about 70-75%, but hopefully that makes
Yeah, perfect. So that would be the commission structure. And just to reiterate, for people that are new or not familiar with the insurance industry, the agency, or at least our agency, doesn't pay you. You're directly contracted with the carrier, and each one of the carriers is going to pay you. And so they can pay you slightly differently depending upon the situation, like Marty alluded to. And keep in mind, even on that first day full coverage, some carriers will pay you on issue, which means you write an application today, within 3 to 5 days, you're getting paid. Some of the carriers, though, will pay you on first draft. So if you wrote a policy today, and then let's say you set up the client's first payment in like 6 weeks from now, you wouldn't get paid until then, right? And so it's just going to vary by carrier, but most carriers are going to pay you a 75% advance. So of that 100% annual premium, you get 9 months of that paid up front. That's what makes final expense so great, is that upfront commission, right, to get the ball rolling. And then in addition to that, there are also opportunities or bonuses from the carriers themselves if you write so much of their product. Some of the things I've seen are like trips to like Europe or like a cruise. I've seen some carriers just pay cash bonus. And I've also seen some carriers that will give you a bonus to help pay for your leads. So just know that those are options available out there in addition to your regular commissions on top of that. So
right.
Marty, what does a policy typically cost for final expense? What is somebody usually paying for it?
Our average annual premium is $800. So that's what, about 50 something dollars a month, something like that, or 65. That's our average premium, could be higher. I mean, I've sold policies for as low as $20 a month. And then, I have some colleagues have sold some for $200-300 a month. I have not, I haven't sold one that high yet, but yeah, typically about $60-70, a month.
Yeah, that's kind of been my experience as well. And again, premiums for these policies range anywhere from like $20 up to like $200 or even more. Probably the most common area you'll see is somewhere between $50 to $80 is kind of like the sweet spot where 80% of your business will probably land. And that is in turn going to provide them a benefit. Typically around $5,000 to $20,000 would be the most common. Like 5, 10, 15 are probably the most common size policies that people are buying. So in case you weren't aware, a little bit of extra information there. Let's see here. Do agents receive a discount on personal insurance that they buy?
They do not receive a discount, but they do receive the commission.
So in a backwards way, right?
Yeah.
You kind of do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You would get the, write it on yourself or obviously any of your family members, but specifically for yourself, you get the commission, full commission.
Got it. Last question here, and then we're going to wrap things up, Marty. It's a question here in the Zoom. This person has a medical condition causing them to have a problem with their voice, usually need to lean into conversations for them to be understood. Is that a negative for telemarketing or face-to-face, kind of piggybacking on that accent question? And this person isn't expecting their voice to improve with time. What would your recommendation for that person be?
Yeah, I mean, if possible,
question.
maybe, I mean, I do like what JD was saying earlier. You can make it into an advantage where people are having to lean in and listen to you more, more astute, if you will. So that could be an advantage. I'd also would look at the face-to-face as well. If that's something that you could do, you may want to start there. And then as your voice is improving, you can always switch over to telesales down the road,
Perfect. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Marty, I know you're a very important person here at the DIG Agency. I don't want to take up any more of your time than I already have. But just to reiterate and wrap things up, right? The whole point of this program today was to help guide you in the process of making sure that you choose the right agency to go work with. So keep in mind those top things to consider are: number one, making sure you're getting the right training. Number two, making sure you've got access to fresh and exclusive leads at an affordable cost to you. Number three is making sure you're on the right commission structure. You're going to get paid. Number four, making sure that you're focusing out the gate initially on selling, not on mass recruiting. And then number five, making sure you have long-term growth opportunities to add additional carriers, to add additional products, to maybe move up into coaching, management, recruiting, etc. So, Marty, any last words before we wrap things up here?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Great. And so for everybody here, thank you for joining us again. You could join me again next week on YouTube or on Zoom if you join our insurance sales success group. And next week, not sure yet. I haven't confirmed the schedule, but what I'm looking on to bring in here in the near future is having our friend Luis Moreno on from 360 to talk to us about Medicare and ACA. We've got open enrollment coming up. We do have experienced agents who have been selling following expense. They're interested in possibly cross-selling Medicare, ACA, health insurance, things of that nature. So I look to dive into that conversation with Luis, if not next week, then here in the near future. But I'll be back next week on Thursday. We're doing this at, I think it's, what is that, noon Central, Marty, if it's 11 Mountain Time for us?
Yes.
Noon Central, same time next week. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, Marty.
All right. We off camera?